Thank you so much for this invitation, for the introduction, and for giving me this opportunity to present. I would also like to thank Goa Vigyan Parishad for the award given to me way back in 2014. Thank you so much for that award. Very good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining today. Let me share the screen. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
It is clear. It is clear. Go ahead.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Yeah, is it clear?
Yes, go to slide mode. It is clear. It is clear.
Okay, so can I start?
You can start, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a picture of Khazan ecosystems of Goa. Now, what you see is the sluice gate very prominently, and behind that is the Khazan fields. Now, let me give the background. Khazans, what are Khazans? Khazans are just rice and fish fields. I hope I'm clear. Please, hello?
Go ahead. You are clear, Sangeeta. You are clear.
Yeah, yeah. In case there is a problem, please let me know. Yeah. So Khazans are rice and fish fields. These are integrated agriculture and aquaculture systems which incorporate traditional aquaculture systems. Now,
Can you make it
Khazans
full screen?
are, yeah. Is this better?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So these are just rice and fish fields which are actually present, which are developed by traditional societies of the world, and they are present on the coastlines of entire world, not just in Goa or not just in India. Now they are known differently in different parts of India. For example, they are known as Bhairi in West Bengal, Gheri in Orissa, Pokali in Kerala, and Kharlines in Karnataka. So the first written historical record of Khazans was found in 6th century Common Era, which is a copper plate, an inscription on a copper plate where a Khazan land called Pukali Khazan was donated to a Brahmin. So that was the first written historical record. Now, most of my work on Khazans is presented in this book, Khazan Ecosystems of Goa, which is published by Springer International in the series on title Advances in Asian Human and Environmental Research. Today's lecture I have designed for the Goan audience. So it has basically most of the Goan part, which will be interested to Goan audience. So the structure of today's presentation is Khazan technology in the first section. I will just describe the Khazan technology, Khazan ecology and management.
When we come out and come somewhere, you have to give at least vote of thanks, no?
Factors affecting Khazans and recommendations for conservation of Khazan. So coming to the first section, Khazan technology. What is Khazan? Khazan ecosystem is comprised of agricultural land which is divided into small beds by an intricate system of dikes. There are small inner dikes or embankments which are called as mero. Meros serve to retain required quantity of water in the Khazan fields, and they prevent soil erosion. Outside the Khazan fields are thick outer dikes which protect Khazan fields against water inundation and salinization. Now they are very thick so that they can resist the pressure of the external riverine water. And these dikes are made up of locally available mud or the clay, which is available in the Khazan fields. The most important part of Khazan lands or the Khazan ecosystem is sluice gate and a point. Now the point is the lowermost part or a depression, a pit on the inner side of Khazan lands, very close to the sluice gate. And it is located at the at such a position that it is at the lowest level of the low tide, so that it can hold water even at the lowest level of the low tide. And in addition to the water, point also holds fish larvae or the fish eggs, which serves as a repository for the next season also. Another important part of Khazan system is the sluice gate. Now the sluice gate shutters are made up of wood of matti or the terminalia plant, which is the state tree, so that this offers resistance to the wood borers, which are abundantly present in our Goan coastal waters. However, these doors need to be replaced periodically after 2 or 3 years because of the wood borers. Otherwise, the saline water may enter into the fields and salinization may take place. Now, this is the structure of Khazan ecosystem. The first picture, the first photograph that you see is the sluice gate, which are now closed. Now, the engineering is such, and the sluice gates are located in such a way that these shutters open and close automatically with the tidal pressure. What you see on our side of the photograph is the riverine water. Now, on the other side will be a point. So during high tides, the sluice gate shutters allow water to go into the fields, agricultural fields. And when the required level is reached, these sluice gate shutters automatically close and the water is retained inside. So at the low tide, the sluice gates again open and let the water come out. So there is a tidal flushing, the water coming in and out automatically with the pressure of the tides. So this tidal flushing cleans the agricultural fields and also brings in fish larvae with it. The fish grows in the field and then later on it is harvested. I'll come to it later. In the second slide, embankments, which are called as marrow or the inner bunds. This help in retaining small amounts. Photograph, you see a water canal which is going around the Khazan fields. So it helps to irrigate the Khazan. Yeah, it helps to irrigate the Khazan field and also drain the whole entire area. Okay. Now in the center, you will see the tidal flow, brackish water. Of course, in this particular diagram, sluice gates are shown parallelly on both sides, which generally is not so. You see on both the sides outer bunds, thick outer bunds, and which are interrupted by the sluice gates, and there are Khazan fields. So this is a diagrammatic representation, but generally you will not see sluice gates on both the sides. Okay, this is how a Khazan field looks. Okay. Now, this is how the first slide shows the shutters of the sluice gates closed after the high tide, after allowing the water to get in. In the slide below, the waters are the sluice gate shutters are wide. Now you will appreciate the difference in the water level between the riverine side and the landward side. It's not that there is an equilibrium between the two, but once the amount of water, required amount, is reached in the agricultural fields, the sluice gate shutters are closed. And during the low tide, it comes out. Okay, you will appreciate the difference in the water levels in this slide. You will also notice the thick outer dikes, the protective dikes, which are so thick, and they are made up of the Khazan clay from the Khazan waters only. So there is always a shelter or a hut near the Khazan fields, and it is because fish generally migrates during the dark hours of the day or during the night hours, and that is when it is caught. So that is why there is always a shelter near a Khazan land. Now coming to the ecology of Khazan, there are generally 3 types of Khazans. Some Khazan lands have both rice and fish fields, or they are integrated agriculture and aquaculture systems. Here the rice is grown during monsoon season when the salinity goes down. There is a crop of rice. Sometimes there are 2 crops. After that, there is another crop of rice taken. But otherwise, in winter, there are winter vegetables grown in the Khazan fields, slightly away from the saline intrusion. Then there are about different varieties of rice grown. I will come to it later. The second type is only fish farm or agor or khani, whatever it is called. But these farms are only fish farms. They grow only fish. And the third type is salt pans or mithagor. Okay, I'll come to each one of them. Now coming to Khazan flora and fauna, different salt-tolerant rice varieties are grown. About 14 or 20 varieties have been recorded, but there are many more. Currently, the most prominent varieties of rice that are grown are Kormut and Asgo. These are currently most prominent. Now, in the winter, there are vegetables grown. And in the integrated farm, different types of fish, shellfish, and crabs are found or caught. Prawns dominate, but there is different kinds of fish like shevto, muddashi, kalandur, the rounds, sonok, or the Indian salmon, and perch or sea bass, etc. In the Khazan fields, generally prawns dominate. So it's even up to 90% of the fish is generally prawns. So that is the most prominent. Microorganisms, including salt-tolerant and metal-resistant bacteria, are found in Khazan fields, and there is ample potential to harness their ability in the Khazans. Coming to the food provided by Khazan. Khazans are called as food bowls of Goa. And in the you will see the prawns it's called to be cell water. Now these fish have 2 life cycles, and they generally come to the less saline water, riverine water, to breed. Now they come, lay eggs, larvae, and they grow using the paddy straw that is present in the Khazan fields, and they convert this organic inedible biomass into edible fish proteins. And after they are grown, they go back to join the adult stock in the sea. When they go back, that is the fish which is caught. And this fish generally migrates during the dark hours of the night. So therefore, in the first slide, different kinds of nets are used in the to catch the fish in the Khazan fields. In the first slide, you will see bag net, or it is called as manchoche jale, which is always put on the riverine side of the sluice gate, and the fish that migrates is caught. So this goes on generally during the night time. And generally during spring tides, that is during the new moon and full moon day, because of the tidal higher levels of higher volumes of water, the fish that is caught is also more. So during high tides or during spring tides, that is during it's also called as zorgat, during new moon day and full moon day, most of the fish is caught. Other times it is called as bhang pani, or they are nip tides. So depending on this fish migration, it is evident that our primitive settlers were familiar with this lunar calendar, fish reproductive cycle, fish migration patterns. They were very familiar. So the first net here is the bag net. Now coming to the below photographs, that is pagiar, or the cast net, which is generally used in the poem. You will also see somebody casting that cast net that's used in the poem. And the last slide is of the katarin, or the gill net, which is used in the fields. Then there is a crab net, the bamboo net, which is used for the crabs. So these are different kinds of nets that are used in the fish farms for harvesting the fish. Okay. Now coming to salt pan, generally in the months of December or January, by January, the water is accumulated, is taken in the Khazan fields. It starts accumulating, and then slowly it starts crystallizing, solidifying and crystallizing. This salt is collected, and by April, May, the whole salt is collected and sold in the market. So this is how a mitha gourd looks. This is the salt. I just remember, I think, let me share something with you all, if you don't mind, if you allow me to share. 10 years back, I presented just on the same day, 10th of October, I presented this paper at Indiana University, a paper on Khazan ecosystems, on the management of Khazan ecosystems. I had published this, I had submitted this paper for publication in Land Use Policy. The paper was on institutions of Khazan ecosystems, and it was it was reviewed by Professor Elinor Ostrom, who got Nobel Prize in economics. And she liked the paper, and she offered me to get it published in her journal. But since Land Use Policy accepted it without any changes, I submitted it. I got it published in that journal. And then later she invited me to Indiana University to her international workshop to present this paper on the same day, 10th of October. That's Columbus Day, actually. And I presented this paper there 10 years back, exactly on 10th of October. So I remembered it when I saw this management of Khazan ecosystems. Anyway, sorry for that detour. Let me come back to Khazan ecosystems. Now, during the management system, I have put it according to the colonial period because the institutional setup changed during these three periods, or the three era. In the pre-colonial period, it dates back to pre-Christian era, the Gaunkari system, which dates back to pre-Christian era. The Khazan ecosystems are very old. They're so old that about it could go back to about 1500 BCE. So these are the groups of Gaonkari systems, were the groups of indigenous people. Generally, the Gauda communities, they had these groups, and their major focus was on resource management, natural resource management, and agricultural systems. This was a period when agricultural operations had started in Goa. So the Gaonkari system was formed, the group was formed, which had focus on agriculture, management of Khazan ecosystems. During the colonial period, this Gaonkari system got legal sanction, and it was formally codified and came to know known as Comunidad system. Now, Comunidad system had used to manage Khazans using a system called with an association called as bounce or bounce. We still call bounsache shed. So that's the bounce. In the post-colonial period, there were major changes. New laws were enacted, and Khazans became a responsibility. Management of Khazans became a responsibility of tenant associations. I'm not getting into detail of each of this, but I have given it in detail in Khazan book, and also in a paper on which is there in land use policy, and I can share it with you if anybody is interested. Now, as I said, during Comunidad, during Gaonkari, and later on during Comunidad system, Khazans were managed by an association called as Bhaus. And here, there were clear tasks assigned to each of the persons. For example, Zonkas, Kulkarni were the clerks and accountants of the community. Kamat were assigned the task of supervising. Kulachars, Paini were assigned the task as watchmen to guard the bunds and wantels. So there were different tasks assigned, and they were also paid for each of these tasks. Now, during Comunidad period, during colonial rule, this boss system was later abolished. Now, the Comunidad, what was the main source of income? They leased cultivation rights. They also leased rights to fish. So that was the source of income for them. Now, right now, because of the changes in the institutional setup, only the rights to fish are leased. Every year in December, the auction takes place, which is conducted by TA under the supervision of Mamlatdar, and highest bidder gets the rights to fish. There's a ban on fishing in monsoons from June to August, and this may serve two purposes. One is protection to juvenile fish, because many species in India have breeding period during that time. And secondly, protection to agricultural crop. So once again, let me just remind you that it is the adult fish, which goes back to be recruited or to join the adult stock. That is what is caught in traditional Khazan farms. Okay. So this is a list of ecological services provided by Khazans. I'm not getting into each of this. I'm not going to read out all this. It is all there. In case anybody wants, I can share it with you. But by now, you know what are the various services performed by Khazans. Okay, it may be just boring. So let me just skip this. But what I would like to tell you is what I have missed in this is the historical value and immense heritage value. The origin of Khazan ecosystems is not what I have talked in this particular lecture, But Khazans have immense heritage value. As I said, it dates back to about 1500 BCE. So that is how it has immense historical value and heritage value. So while doing ecosystem valuation, these aspects should be taken care of. Okay. Now coming to factors affecting Khazan. First and foremost are the mud crabs and wood borers. Okay. You will see in the photograph the holes which are dug by mud crabs. Now these are small holes. However, if they are not impaired in time, they grow big. So during Kaminidad time or Dhau system, there were watchmen who were assigned this task to immediately repair these holes. But currently, these are the holes in the outer protective dike. So if these holes grow big, then there is saline intrusion. The saline water from the river comes in the fields and the fields become saline. And once the salinity level increases, there is growth of mangrove trees in the forest, in the Khazans, and it becomes uncultivated. Okay. So these are the slide you will see here, the photograph that you see is the wood borers, and you will also see this is the oil from the cashew nuts, which is applied to the canoe, which is being applied to the canoe to protect it from the wood borers and fouling organisms. This is another one, wood borers. This wood has been dug by the wood borers. There are wood borers infecting the wood holes by the wood borers. So these wood borers are abundantly found in our Goan waters, coastal waters. Another factor is non-cultivation of land. Whatever the reasons, like financial remuneration from agricultural fields is so low now, the agricultural produce is so low that number of people keep Khazan lands uncultivated. So you will see the mangroves growing in the fields. Again, the impact of intensive agriculture, because intensive agriculture, hybrid varieties give better yield. So people prefer to use hybrid varieties in the Khazan fields. And these hybrid varieties also require a lot of fertilizers. These fertilizers can cause eutrophication in the coastal waters, which again, BOD increases and therefore there is fish kills. So these impacts of intensive agriculture are also on the fish crop. Another factor is migration of skilled manpower. During colonial and post-colonial period, many people have migrated in search of jobs, employment opportunities, better employment opportunities, and therefore it has impacted Khazans by reduced strength of membership, so that resulting into reduced income and also reduced skill for maintenance, because maintenance of Khazans is a highly skilled job. So once this skill is reduced, the Khazan maintenance becomes very difficult. The impact of mining activity. Mining barges, there is heavy traffic in the waters of Goa. So these mining barges impact in two ways. One is the waves during the traffic of mining barges cause adverse impacts on the protective dike, outer protective dike. Because of the waves, it impacts the outer protective dike, the stability of the outer protective dike, which are made up of the clay from the Khazan mud. Secondly, the silt from the mining activity also accumulates in the Khazan fields, which again degrades the Khazan agricultural land. Now, changes in traditional technology. You will see that these are metal shutters. Traditionally, Khazan fields use sluice gate shutters which are made up of wood, and they automatically open and close with the pressures of the tides. Now, this change in traditional technology, you will see the fouling organisms on these sluice gate shutters. So this also degrades Khazan lines because they're not automatically closing with they don't close automatically with the tidal influences, but have to be manually maintained. Okay. Now, land conversion to buildings because of urbanization and because of high tourism pressure on the coastal lines of Goa. There's a lot of land conversion. So that also changes. Now, erosion of traditional value. Khazan indigenous communities who have developed Khazans had certain rules. But of late, because of the increasing demand in fish, there are illegal practices used in fishing. For example, intentional breaching of bunds or this illegal use nets, illegally closing the sluice gates manually. So there are different closing and opening sluice gates manually. So there are different ways which are illegal but carried out in Khazan fields. I'm not getting into the each of these. Changes in primary objectives is basically how there was change from the primary objective of agriculture land management to now fisheries. Changes in property right. This is what I just want to talk about. Now, what has happened is after the merger of Goa into the Indian Union, after the liberation, laws that were applicable that were existing in India, in other parts of India, were made applicable to Goa. In other parts of India, there were huge landlots, and these laws, Agriculture Reforms Act, were based on the principles of distributive justice, which aimed equal and fair rights of land or property to everybody. So in India, in other parts of India, there were huge landlots, whereas in Goa, a large part of the land was communally owned and communally managed. But when this Agricultural Reforms Act were enacted in Goa, the Goa Agricultural Tenancy Act 1964, I think, that even the communally owned land became individually owned because the tenants, it was applied equally to all the kinds of land. So the tenants became the deemed owners of the property. So this impacted Khazans in different ways. One, it stopped income from cultivation, from leasing rights to cultivation. So it reduced the income to Khazans. Also, there were other unintended consequences. For example, tenants who got, or the owners who now own the plot which was away from the tidal influences, no longer had interest in protecting the Khazan lines or the protective dikes. They lost interest. So the Khazan lines were just, the maintenance of Khazan was very poor. So this was another way. Now also, there were many other ways, but these were the main implications. Consequently, because of the reduced income, the dependency on the state increased. During Gaonkari system, Khazans were self-sufficient. But later on, because of the reduced income, they became dependent on the state. Currently, the state gives subsidy. I think, I don't know if it is right now 90% or 100%. But but an estimate is required. And the procedure to obtain sanction takes so much of time that by the time the amount is sanctioned, the sanctioned amount is no longer sufficient for the repairs. So therefore, that's another way. Weak implementation, we all know how it is. Now, this is the way. We just wanted to track the procedure for repair of bunds, and you see how long it takes to get the sanction of the estimate. You see 1 month display on notice board. So by the time the amount, the funds are released, that is no longer sufficient to repair the Khazans. Okay, so these are various, these were the diagrams we did during our participatory work. This is the breaching of bunds and how it can impact. This is a cause and impact diagram. Okay, so breaching of bunds is the center problem, how it impacts the Khazan fields. Okay, so these are basically different ways for the degradation of Khazan lands. These are various factors that create degradation of Khazan lands. Basically because of the salinization of Khazan land, and there is growth of mangroves, and we have increased mangroves in the Khazan lands, but highly productive Khazan lands are no longer available. And we have an old figure. Now, this is my list of recommendations. I will just briefly go through it. I know it may be boring for you if I just read it out. So, most important is an inventory of current status of Khazans. Now, we all talk whenever we don't know how much of Khazan lands is available in Goa. There's an old figure of 18,000 hectares, and we keep talking about it. I think it is necessary to have a recent inventory again of the current status of Khazans. Okay. Another recommendation is reserving some Khazans as protected areas. Of course, there is a legal protection now under CRZ 2011. There is the Khazans are protected. Establishment of an in situ Khazan museum. This is necessary. Okay, if we have Khazan museum showcasing all the different aspects of Khazans, its heritage value, its historical importance, ecosystem value, people will be aware, there will be more awareness. And one such Khazan museum can protect so many Khazans around. Globally important agricultural heritage systems. This was in one of our workshops, this was a recommendation. And there are some globally important agricultural heritage systems recognized as for the World Heritage Systems. In Kerala, we have some coastal agricultures recognized as heritage systems. Mainstreaming Khazans into planning. And I think government has to invest in Khazan lands. Integrating it with ecotourism, value-added processing, these are various ways one can encourage Khazan lands, cultivation of Khazan lands. Combining indigenous ecological knowledge with scientific knowledge. Now, this indigenous ecological knowledge is very, very important. It is evident that there was comprehensive ecological knowledge in Khazan lands, in developing these Khazan lands. For example, the location of the sluice gate. Sluice gates are located at a very strategic position. So it is evident that geology, hydrogeology, land contours, topography, all this the indigenous communities were familiar with. So that induction of indigenous institutions, this is also a need. Guideline for good practices and certification systems. For example, organic agriculture guidelines as well as certification so that consumers can make informed decisions. strengthening local community, right, and giving them a voice in decision making. The fishers and the farmers of Khazan ecosystem should be made part in decision making, in government decision making. Now, introducing environmental education programs. I think this will be very useful for today's session. And today's audience education. So loves learning and includes in situ lab. Site visits to Khazan farms may be conducted for the students as well as for local public, so that even others, the Goan populace, knows about the importance of Khazan ecosystems. See, today there are a number of experiments being conducted for introducing saline genes, so the salt-tolerant genes into the rice varieties. And here we have already gene banks which have salinity-tolerant rice, which is an effort of our farmers for several generations. I think we need to conserve these varieties. Developing effective partnerships. Now, these partnerships can be between farmers and fishers, between government and NGOs, between local communities and government, public-private industries and local communities. So these are different types of partnerships. Those are required, but they need to be effective. Local initiatives and providing access to market, which now agriculture has become much less remunerative. So introducing specialized skills, providing access to public information and participation. Now, this can be done several ways, and each of these I have elaborated in the book. Let me not go into the details of this, but if you have any questions, I will surely answer them. What I would like to draw your attention is to the use of mand or folk theatre or folk music, dance, indigenous modes can be used to provide access to public information and participation. Okay. So towards the end, let me just say that Khazans contribute to the world heritage. I'm sorry, again, will be loss of world heritage. So this is the book I was talking about. Most of the work that I have done on Khazan is in this book, Khazan Ecosystems of Goa. We do have more papers and on Khazans, but this has major part, most of the work that we have done. And a complimentary copy of this I have given to Central Library. So if anybody is interested, you can refer to this book. This has most of my work on Khazan ecosystems. Okay. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I hope it was not boring for you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. It was a wonderful presentation, very comprehensive, and of course, you did analyze the problems faced by the Khazans, because today a lot is being talked about the damage that is caused due to destruction of Khazans, the saltwater influx, abandoning the agriculture, then landfilling, followed by constructions coming up in field land, and so much and so much. Of course, the CRZ regulations are there, but then ultimately this is something which was done by the people, was being maintained by the people. And I believe that the people's participation is the real answer. The crux of the problem is that people have got alienated from it. Well, what I feel is now, let this forum be open for discussion, and any questions people have, please you may ask, or unmute your mic and pose the question, please.
Good evening. This is Nestor over here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I am from Sandisdev, and we have after about 25-30 years, we have cultivated around 10 lakh square meters of our lands.
Yeah.
The thing that I realized is, because of this new tenancy system, people are not bothered about cultivating their lands.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that the tenancy system is the crux of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know is, why doesn't the government go back to the old Comunidad system, which was actually a very good system of protecting the fields and protecting the land?
Actually, now, one thing is, I cannot handle this question because this is something you will have to go back to the government and ask them. I hope some government.
It's ongoing.
Yeah. In any case, that part. But to your second point that you have raised, that Comunidad system, yes, but the Khazan degradation started during Comunidad system. The maintenance of Khazan lands was abolished during Comunidad system. So it was during the colonial period that the Khazan degradation had started, because there are various factors which are not listed here, but there were a number of factors leading to the degradation of Khazan lands, which started during Comunidad system. And finally, the Comunidad system there were additional factors in the post-colonial period. Of course, today, fishing has become the major objective because of the demand, economically rational decisions, because of the demand for fish as against the demand for agricultural produce. So that has to be, and I think, I'm not too sure whether government is doing anything about it, but maybe you should go.
Actually, more than the demand of fish, there is a lot of pressure on the land nowadays in Goa for construction activity.
Yes,
Fish,
yes, that is, yeah, land use change is a major factor.
It's actually a major problem of most of the Khazans, and you can see in many places, lands are being filled illegally, complaints are raised, but no action is being taken.
Yes, because there is a system in place in CRZ 2011. Khazans are particularly mentioned. Khazans have been joined, have been added, and as protective areas in CRZ 2011. So there is a system in place, there are rules in place, but as I said, weak implementation of rules is a major concern in India. I mean, that is something we have to accept.
And actually, I think one more thing is, like last year, our fields were inundated for about 15 days due to the excess rain and water left from the dam. But luckily, our village didn't get water. Our fields were inundated. So in fact, it acts as a water sink sort of. And if we start filling up, already water levels are rising. I don't think things are going to be very rosy in the future.
Yeah, see, the Khazan architecture is such that these shutters open and close on the pressure, on the water pressure. So when there is water level high in the fields, there's point also which serves to protect the fields from storm water or the flood water. The point is a depression, and it protects the field from flood waters. So this is
but actually last week was a different case. Actually, water was even flowing over the Mandovi River straight over the barns and into the fields. In you know, last year was like the full total 30 meters in some this day was inundated.
Yeah, that is also a problem which is not related just to Khazan lands, but to our policies and what measures we take to protect our water bodies in general, because there is siltation in our water bodies, including if you see Santinese Creek, there is siltation in our, and that has narrowed the water channel. So there is immense flooding everywhere.
Achha, just one last question I'd like to take. Like nowadays, the government is repairing the agriculture as well as the WRD. They are repairing the bunds, but they are using mud, you know, from the hills and everywhere. Is that a good practice or?
No, I didn't get you. What are they using?
Like many places, they are repairing the bunds nowadays.
Yeah.
They are even widening the bunds in some places. Some places usually wide, maybe up to 10 meters also in some places.
Yeah.
Maybe for some other reason. But the thing is that they are using mud cut from the hills and they are using their hard. Nowadays, nobody is using the chikol that was there in the river and in the.
Yeah.
Is that okay or is that bad?
See, it will definitely change the microenvironment. Now, we don't know what are the impacts. So I don't think government should immensely, at such a high level take up these kind of works without testing the impacts on the Khazan fields.
But it is being done in many places.
Yes, but that's a wrong strategy. And we can't help it. But we have to test. If it is taken on a smaller scale, you see the impacts on the microenvironment is definitely going to have impact. Now, one of the students was doing a PhD on freshwater otters. I don't know what are the results of his research, but he was checking whether the otters are having any impact because of this kind of changes in Khazan lines in the bunds, whatever material they use. I don't know whether he got any impact of Khazan lines, because otters may be impacted. So it's definitely going to impact our biodiversity, but we don't know to what level. So I think we have to check on a smaller scale what is the impact, because the nutrient fluxes are definitely going to change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was a nice, answer. And anybody else who would like to ask question, please. Okay.
Yeah, this is Nestor. Can I take one more question, please?
Yeah.
Yep.
If besides rice, the salt-tolerant varieties like Korgut, Asgo, etc., which can be grown.
Yeah.
Like after the Kharif season, most of the time our fields, except for the areas little farther away where the salinity is less, a few vegetables and everything are grown. But in the lands which are little saline, are there any other crops besides rice that can be grown in those fields, which will?
No, sometimes there is a second crop of rice taken there.
No, that's only in some areas, madam. That's only in some areas.
Yeah,
like
in some areas, not everywhere. Yeah.
Because they've got water stored somewhere.
Yeah. So in some areas only, because the salinity levels increase. So then it is generally fish and winter vegetables, which are slightly away from the saline intrusion or the tidal influxes.
So there's no crop as such besides rice which can work directly in the, which can grow
the old literature which I read, there were many other crops like nachne or ragi, which was grown in Khazan lines. So there were some crops which were grown in Khazan lines, which the old literature which I read includes all that. And something called as Dudmogro was the type. I will have it documented in the book. I have everything documented in the book. But the rice varieties, we have about 14 to 20 varieties even today, I think.
But which are the main varieties of this? What is that? Saline rice varieties.
Saline
Like
rice,
ICAR has come
yeah,
out with a variety called JK238, or it is called Guadhan 4. It is a
I
cross
see.
between Kurkut and
No,
Jyoti,
we
which
have,
are in the
okay,
soil.
okay, okay. We have here Asgo, Damgo, Kalo Damgo, Kalo Novan, Kormut, Khotsro, Belo, Muno, Shirdi, Shiddi. Huh. Then
Yeah.
Pabri, Belo, Chagar, Dodik, Giresal, Kendal, Kochri, Kusalgo, Patni, Rungo, Shildi, Sotti, Valai, and Shitto. So,
Right.
Dudmogra is a millet or which was
Right.
used.
Right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah.
I feel, madam, now this is the time to reintroduce some of the millets like this.
Yes. Yes, which is very good in calcium and a good source of nutrients.
No, it is needed because it is gaining importance at national level,
Yes.
international level.
Yes. And also what is important is we maintain all this saline tolerant varieties of rice, because today there is so much of research going on these introducing saline genes, salt tolerant genes in rice varieties. And we have these so much of resources available here.
Yeah, we have biodiversity. Almost 26 varieties were there, what you told. All we have got collection with us.
Yes.
From that only Korgut only some Goadhan 1, Goadhan 2, we could release some 2 varieties. They are purified of the Korgut, not the new varieties.
Okay.
But their yield is almost more than double.
Okay.
We generally tag with the Goa name. So Goadhan 1 and Goadhan 2 we already released. Mr. Nelson, Nestor, who spoke to you himself, is growing it in some 20 acre.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. In fact, this value addition and the certification programs and all will even add to the value of rice.
Yeah, because one is a red type, one is white type. It is from our Korgut only.
Yeah, okay. And access to markets is necessary. All this, even if there is this organic certification program, which is in the packing itself, the consumers also can make an informed decisions. So all this
Mr. is selling online actually.
Okay.
He is selling online like a hot cake. And many times he sells on WhatsApp group and all those things. He sells almost maybe 60 rupees kilo or something, little higher than normal rates.
Very nice.
And he gets it because in general Khazan rice is organic default because nobody generally will try to use any fertilizer there.
Yeah, Khazan rice, no. But what happens is in the Khazan fields itself, some people use intensive agriculture. The crops, hybrid crops like Jyoti.
But actually, Jyoti doesn't survive in Khazan lands. Actually, we have seen many places. If there is no submergence, it dries actually.
Okay.
Jyoti is a good yielder, but not the tolerant with the salinity.
Acha.
A little salinity increase, yes, it goes.
Okay, because during our participatory work, I had seen people using all different kinds of hybrid varieties.
They may try once or twice, but they don't get success. That we know very well. Finally, we have to be eco-friendly. Whatever is that ecology accepts, that only we have to go there. I like your lecture, madam, very much, and I will be happy to know about more detail about that ecosystem services, because still people see direct money. My colleagues may collect that book, no doubt about that. They will go collect.
The book is available online actually.
Yeah, I will try to procure it.
But a complimentary copy I have given to
I will try to procure it. We will try to procure it because nowadays we have to see more on ecosystem services rather than money.
Yeah. No, the thing is the book, I mean, I don't recommend it so much to anybody because the book is highly priced. It's available on Springer website as well as on Amazon, but it is highly priced. What I would suggest is maybe the departmental libraries can buy and make it available to public. Like
we'll try. We'll definitely try. It.
Yeah. So I mean, otherwise it's quite expensive for an individual.
How much it is, madam?
It's about 107 euros or something.
Okay, not an issue. You have to see content of the book, not the price. Don't reveal. I can purchase for my institution. What is it? Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hello.
Jana sir, anything
Madam.
you want to say? Jana sir? Yeah, Jana sir, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm there.
Whether you would like to ask some question?
No, it was nice. I was listening. No questions. No questions.
Sir,
Hello.
please,
Yeah. I am Nelson Figueredo, ex-agriculture department. See, what I had found was in Sirigaon, for example, there are two types of Khazan. One is the Harvard Khazan, which is actually very saline. And there is the other Khazan adjoining it called Sawat Khazan, which is adjoining hills. Now in Sirigaon, for example, the Donachi Toli is adjoining that Sawat Khazan. There, Rabi crop, even some hybrids could be cultivated. But you cannot cultivate crops like paddy, second crop in the Harvard Khazan. So this type of Khazan were documented in other areas also. I am aware of Sirigaon.
Yeah. So generally it's an issue with salinity because during monsoon the salinity levels go down and that is when rice crop is taken. But later on when the salinity increases it becomes difficult for the rice crop. Yeah.
Hello.
yeah, please ask your question. Pradeep?
Hello, sir. I'm audible.
Yes, ask your question.
Yes. Madam, can you please tell me if there are any threatened fish species which are not available now in Khazan land, which were very much abundant in earlier prehistoric time, or I mean during the Bao's time and all?
So actually I'm not done much work on biodiversity of Khazan lines. That's something we had to do. But as I said, there are many people who are doing a lot of work. As I said, freshwater otters, which were seen earlier in huge numbers, are now quite rare. So that is something, I mean, now we have to start working on different aspects of Khazan lines. See, I would very much like to at least collate whatever work has been done on biodiversity of Khazan lands. But the issue with me is I don't work for any governmental organization. I have to procure my own funding for my research. And what happens is most of my projects were international funding. So that is not available for a local problem like Khazan or biodiversity of Khazan. So it becomes very difficult for me to work on each of these aspects. What I do is whenever I have some time or do whatever I can do, I do it on my own. But the issue is to get funding for me, to get funding for such local problems. But I gave up my Terry job because I wanted to document Goan ecosystems. I wanted to be to work on these Goan ecosystems which are very less documented. Like on biodiversity of Khazans, there is not much available. I tried to collate whatever was available, but not much is available on biodiversity.
Okay, so it's a topic for the research now. So it's open.
It is. And what I suggest is, since we are talking of now Vigyan Parishad and there are many teachers I hope are available here, are listening, we could take it as projects within the high schools or higher secondary schools, and each one can take up each aspect of it. Like as I said about the otters, somebody can work on microorganisms, somebody can work on birds, somebody, different types, different biodiversity aspects, and then all of it can be collated and collected all the material, and it can really make a very good book.
That's true.
That's
Okay, madam.
Actually,
Thank
could
you.
I say something, please, regarding that?
yeah.
Dr. Pradeep Sarmukadam of the Goa Biodiversity Board has done a lot of work on the Goan Khazan systems, and a lot of villages have made their PBR, the People's Biodiversity Register.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of information that can be got from about the different type of flora and fauna in the of the biodiversity available in Khazans from Dr. Pradeep Sarmukadam of Goa Biodiversity.
Okay.
He's
So
available in Saligaon. He's
yeah,
available in Saligaon.
but then they can come out with a book which can be in public domain so that even others can make use of it. I mean, it will be a very good input. Public.
Actually, as he said, there has been some input, though it is not very exhaustive. I do feel that we must have a clear study devoted to Khazans, and this information which various DMCs have included in their PBRs. That can be
Yes.
because very often it happens that there is a information given by local, and not that it is wrong, but it needs to be scientifically authentic.
Yes.
So therefore, with that, combining the two things, the local knowledge and scientific affirmation of that information are some things which are not noted by people earlier. I think that can be a good possibility. And as you suggested, I agree that we can certainly involve the local institutions, because this is not a work of one day or one season. We need to continue it. Therefore, I think yes, we can try to somewhere do a license, bring people together, and something. Thank you very much for suggesting it.
Thank you, sir.
Why, sir, you are already there.
Yes, sir.
You have your valued activity now. I
Okay,
think
sir.
And Madam must be also exhausted.
Okay, sir.
We follow the
Better late than never, sir.
pardon. Yeah.
Hello.
He is there at. Yes.
Hello.
Why, sir? Yeah, why, sir?
I am audible now, sir.
Yes, now you are audible.
Okay. Let me do the privilege of proposing vote of thanks. As all of us are aware that Khazan ecosystem is very special ecosystem which is different from all others. And Khazans are pride of Goa, which are existing for the last thousands of years, and it has a very long history. Madam has nicely explained the flora, fauna of Khazan, and also she also told the history of Khazan lands, and she has nicely explained
Can you?
like mud flap, water borers, non-cultivation, intensive agriculture, and she has nicely also told pros and cons and problems of Khazan lands. And the question is, what is the way ahead? That also she has nicely explained in what way we can go ahead to protect and save our Khazan lands, which are really our pride of Goa, I should say. And apart from that, in the light of climate change, more and more Khazan lands are bound to happen, not only in Goa, in most of the places. As the sea rise will be there, most of the sea water will enter the mainland and they will turn into Khazan land. So this is a high time we should be careful and we should think of some strategies to make use of these Khazan lands for better prospects. Madam, thank you very much for your highly educative, enchanting and thought-provoking talk what you have given. It's a wonderful talk. It reflects your expertise in the field which has come by working several decades in these Khazan lands. That's why the expertise have come. I feel that Khazans need to be protected, preserved and propagated, as it happens to be one of the very important TK, what you call it a TK, that's traditional knowledge. It should not go away with us. We should have this knowledge and improve the things. With this, I thank Madam once again for a wonderful talk, sparing your time, valuable time, and delivering a nice talk. I also